You know, we all think about how to project value and status, but what if the most powerful signals we send are the ones we send without saying a single word? Today, we're going to dive into the hidden framework of what's been called silent status.
So let's start with a really important question for you. Is the value you project something you are actively performing for other people, or is it something that's just kind of perceived by them almost effortlessly? It seems like a small difference, right? But trust me, it changes everything.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. On one side, you've got performed value. This is all the stuff you do. Adjusting your tone of voice, picking out the right clothes, using big words. It's a conscious effort to look valuable. But on the other side, there's perceived value. And this isn't about trying at all. It's about being. It comes across through your calmness, your emotional regulation, your stability. One is like a loud broadcast, and the other is a steady frequency.
Okay, so if this perceived value is what we're after, what's the engine that actually drives it? Well, it's probably not what you're thinking. The answer is something deep inside of us, the power of self-regulation. And this is where the real work starts.
Now, self-regulation doesn't mean being some cold, unfeeling robot. Think of it more like an internal architecture, a solid framework inside you that lets you manage those emotional spikes, control your time and your words, and crucially, choose your reactions. That control is what builds a stable, unshakable identity.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Before you've even opened your mouth, your internal state, whether your nervous system is calm or chaotic, has already told everyone in the room who you are in that moment. It's a wild idea, right? Your own biology becomes your biggest source of influence.
So how do we actually build this internal architecture? Let's get practical and break down the first two habits. These are all about mastering your immediate reactions in any conversation.
Okay, think about a time you were misunderstood. The gut reaction, that low-value behavior, is to jump right in and over-explain, right? You're scrambling to protect your image. The high-value approach is totally different. It's selective clarification. You just pause, you figure out if it even needs correcting, and if it does, you clarify, short and sweet. If not, you just let it go.
And why does that work so well? It's simple psychology. Our brains are hardwired to see speed as panic, as insecurity. But calmness? Calmness feels like authority. When you don't feel the need to fix every little misunderstanding, you project this deep, quiet certainty. And that is way more persuasive than any frantic explanation could ever be.
The second habit just builds right on top of that. Think of it in 3 steps. First, there's the trigger, a tough question. Maybe someone interrupts you. Then comes the reaction. That's the instinctive, defensive, super fast thing you do. But the key, the real game changer, is inserting a tiny delay, a pause. You breathe, and then you deliver a measured response. That little gap shows you're in control. And believe me, in any room, the most regulated person always comes out on top.
Okay, so we've covered controlling your reactions. Now let's move on to controlling your resources. And by that, I mean your time and even your physical presence.
Now, this isn't about playing games or being hard to get. It's about signaling that your time has a purpose, that it has structure. Being instantly available all the time kind of signals you have too much of it. But when you deliberately allocate your time, it sends a clear message. My focus is a valuable and finite resource. I mean, it's just basic economics, right? When something is always available, its perceived value goes down. It's the same with your presence. When access to you feels a little more structured, people just naturally give it more psychological weight. They treat your time more carefully because they know it's not an unlimited thing. Your boundaries literally build your status.
And let's talk about your body. When the pressure's on, the low-value response is all that anxious movement, fidgeting, shifting your weight, talking way too fast. Those are all signs that your brain is detecting a threat. The high-value behavior? Trained stillness, a relaxed posture, minimal hand gestures, a steady gaze. That physical steadiness is read by everyone, subconsciously as pure internal power.
And this is exactly why that stillness is so important. You can say all day that you're calm and in control, but your body, it might be telling a completely different story. Our nonverbal cues almost always give away our true internal state, whether we're feeling regulated or totally anxious.
All right, the final layer of this whole self-regulation thing is about controlling your energy, basically how you show up in a group setting. Let's look at the last 2 habits. So,
Picture a chaotic meeting. The low-value energy in that room is the person who's interrupting, talking over people, laughing a bit too loud. They're doing anything they can to grab the spotlight. The high-value energy is totally different. It doesn't compete. It's selective. It waits for the noise to die down, for attention to settle, and then it contributes something meaningful.
This quote just nails it. When you're surrounded by noise, our brains start looking for a clear signal. So when you speak rarely, but every word you say has some weight to it, you create this kind of social gravity. You'll notice people actually start leaning in to hear what you have to say.
And now we get to the anchor habit, the one that really holds this all together. When you're in a conversation that feels disrespectful or just unequal, the low-value response is to chase them, to argue, to demand that they see your point. The high-value response? A quiet willingness to just withdraw. No big drama, no announcement, you just detach.
Because when someone senses that you're okay with losing the interaction, they realize you don't need their approval or validation. That non-attachment signals that you have an abundance of self-worth and other options, and that single perception can instantly rewire the entire power dynamic between you.
So, let's bring it all home. We've gone through 6 different habits, but they're not just a random list of tricks. They're all connected. They're all expressions of one single, powerful idea.
Here they are one more time. Clarifying selectively, responding instead of reacting, managing your time, managing your body, letting attention come to you, and being willing to walk away. So what's the thread? What connects every single one of these?
It's this. Real status isn't about being the loudest or the most intimidating person in the room. It's a centered, controlled presence that comes from that deep internal architecture of self-regulation. When you have that, you become what's called a psychological anchor. And in a world that feels so chaotic, people are desperately drawn to anything that feels anchored.
So we'll end right back where we started, with one last question for you to think about. In your own life, where are you putting your energy? Are you busy decorating the exterior, polishing that performance for everyone? Or are you doing the real work of building your internal architecture? Because at the end of the day, that is the only unshakable foundation of silent status.